This is how to do a magic ring, which is a way of starting to crochet in the round without making chain stitches. This starting method you can use for anything, where you would use a chain, but it produces a very tight start so you don't get a hole. Start by placing the tail thread over your left hand. You're going to wrap it twice around your two middle fingers here, and then you're going to grab it with your pinky finger and your index finger so that it is tight. Now go underneath the first thread and over the second one and pull it back. And then you can twist your needle towards you and then up. This produces a loop on your hook. Then you go out and you get the thread that is right now on the back, or to the back of your ring finger. And then you pull that back through the loop that you have on your hook, and I am using my other fingers to keep that tight so that I have a chance of actually getting through that loop. Now when you let go, you're going to have this. There's a ring and there is a tail thread hanging in front. So when you grab your yarn here, you can work in this circle just like you would in a circle of chains. And this circle can be made smaller if you pull the thread, or the tail, sorry, and larger if you pull on the inside of the ring. Now to work in this ring, you're going to just do as you would in any kind of ring. I prefer it to be kind of small. I think that is easier to work in, but I mean, experiment if you're having problems, because you might prefer it bigger or smaller. I just think I have a little bit more control when it's smaller. So you go in and you work around both the ring and the tail thread. Remember not to catch the tail thread, and by no, you're not going to work with the tail thread at any point. If you do, you're not going to be able to close your ring and you're left with a huge gap rather than what I promised you, which was no gap at all. When you are finished and you have worked all of the crochet stitches that you want into your ring, you are going to tighten it by pulling on the tail thread. I'm also holding my stitches. I think that makes it a little bit easier. So you're just going to pull the thread and then work your stitches, and then pull the thread again and work your stitches until this ring closes all the way. And then you can complete your round if you want to. I don't know what's in your pattern, of course, but if you were starting like I normally am, then you would just go into this stitch and create a chain or slip stitch to join this round together. Now, one thing that I am doing here that I think you shouldn't do is I am working over the tail thread. Now, there's nothing wrong with working in your tails, but it is not enough when you're working in magic ring that it is just sort of laying inside of the work. I've seen examples of people doing slippers in crochet, and they have started with the magic ring, and after the slippers have been worn once or twice, the magic ring has opened and all of these stitches are lost. So please get a yarn needle and work that tail in rather than just leave it there. Now I'm going to show a different way of doing this, and it's just by wrapping the yarn twice around your index finger. Then you go underneath the first yarn and you grab the second loop and pull up. Now grab your tail thread and pull that, put that in front. Make sure not to work with it. Then you're going to grab the thread that goes to the ball, and you're going to get the yarn and pull it through the loop. I will show both of these methods a bunch of times at the end of this video, but right now I just wanted to show you the two different ways of making a magic ring that I know of, and then you can experiment and try whichever one you want to work with. Magic ring is not, in my opinion anyway, a beginner technique. It can be a little bit challenging, so don't be discouraged if you don't get it in the first try. I had to actually more or less come up with this method. I'm not saying that no one else does magic ring like this, like I just showed you, but I kind of had to come up with this myself because I couldn't make the other thing work. So just, it's hard, and it's going to take some time for you to get it. So here I'm showing you again. I'm just taking the tail thread and I am wrapping it twice around my index finger from the back to the front and from the back into the front, and I leave it in the front. Then I grab it with my thumb, I go underneath, I grab the second piece of yarn on my index finger, I go down and pull it up. Then I hold that in place and make sure that my tail thread is in the front. Then I grab the yarn that goes to the ball and I pull through the loop on my hook. And now again I have exactly the same magic ring as I would produce with the other method, and I can work around here. And when I'm done doing stitches in this ring, I can close it by pulling on the tail thread, and then of course, like I said, I'm going to work that tail in so that I don't have to worry about it slipping away from me. The difference, I think, so starting with a chain stitch and the risk of it getting lost, if you will, is that this is traveling inside of the stitches, whereas when you're doing a starting chain, you basically have the chain stitches and they're actually quite difficult to unravel from the back. So now I'm just going to show you a bunch of times, and I hope that you will write to me if you're having problems, and I really hope that there is an angle in here where you can see how to do a magic ring.